June 2020. Auditors a day have spent weeks trying to verify something simple. 2 bank accounts in the Philippines. 2 billion euros in cash. It's a routine verification. The banks need to confirm the money exists. The answer should come within days. It doesn't come. Long pause. A asks again. Silence. Weeks of silence. On June 18, 2020, Wirecard announces something that no one in financial markets knows how to process. The 2 billion euros in those accounts. Probably don't exist. Not that the money disappeared. It was never there. Within 48 hours, the company collapses. The CEO is arrested. The COO disappears. And the largest financial scandal in German history is exposed. How did a DAX company build a fraud of this scale over years? To understand Wirecard, you have to go back to 1999. Munich. The internet boom. A small digital payments processing company founded in a market no one fully understood. The company survived the dot-com crash. While most startups disappeared, Wirecard kept operating. It processed payments for online casinos, adult websites, and gambling platforms. Businesses traditional banks refused. The niche was murky. But it was profitable. And it gave Wirecard a position no one else wanted to occupy. In 2002, Markus Braun arrived. Austrian consultant. PhD in computer science. Always in black. Always with long-term vision. Braun had a clear thesis. The world was migrating toward digital payments and Wirecard could become the infrastructure of that world. It was a plausible thesis. The problem is what he did to sustain it. The ascent under Braun's leadership, Wirecard grew. Expansion into Asia, India, Singapore, Dubai. Positioned as the European fintech that understood emerging markets better than anyone. The numbers were impressive. Revenue growing year after year. Margins exceeding traditional banks. Investors responded. The stock price climbed. Analysts wrote enthusiastic reports. And in 2018 came the defining moment. Wirecard was included in the DAX, the index of Germany's 30 largest companies. The same index that housed Siemens, Volkswagen, Bayer. To enter, it replaced Commerzbank. A bank with more than 150 years of history. A digital payments startup founded in 1999 displacing one of Germany's oldest banks. It was the perfect narrative of technological disruption. Except that much of the narrative was fiction. The illusion to sustain the growth it was promising, Wirecard needed real revenue. The problem, its real operations didn't generate what it reported. The solution was to build an architecture of fiction. In several Asian countries, Wirecard claimed to have local commercial partners processing payments on its behalf. Those partners generated enormous revenues. Those revenues appeared in financial reports. Those revenues were, in large part, invented. The money those partners supposedly generated was meant to sit in third-party bank accounts. In the Philippines. In other Asian countries. Accounts Wirecard theoretically controlled but that in practice contained numbers on a spreadsheet and nothing more. For the system to work, it needed one critical thing: auditors who wouldn't ask the right questions. And for years, one of the 4 largest audit firms in the world audited Wirecard's financial statements without directly verifying with banks whether those accounts existed. They trusted Wirecard's documentation. They signed the financial statements. And each signature was a validation the market used to trust even more. The warnings, but there were people asking the right questions. From 2015, journalists at the Financial Times, led by Dan McCrum, published reports questioning Wirecard's accounts, the inconsistencies in its Asian operations, the opaque relationships with commercial partners, the numbers that didn't add up. Wirecard's response was systematic and aggressive. Legal action against the FT, formal complaints to regulators, a campaign to discredit the journalists. And the argument worked. BaFin, Germany's financial regulator, instead of investigating Wirecard, opened an investigation against the FT journalists and the short sellers betting against the stock. The regulator investigated those who reported the fraud instead of the fraud itself. For 5 years, the warnings were ignored, silenced, criminalized, and Wirecard kept growing. The implosion in 2020, the Financial Times published new evidence with internal documents, falsified sales reports, invented contracts. BaFin finally ordered a special audit. KPMG was hired to review the accounts. The result was devastating. KPMG could not verify a large part of the reported revenues. Then A did what it should have done years before. It contacted the banks in the Philippines directly. The banks responded that those accounts didn't exist, that they had never had a relationship with Wirecard. On June 18, 2020, Wirecard announced that €2 billion on its balance sheets probably didn't exist. In 2 days, the stock lost 95% of its value. On June 22, Wirecard filed for insolvency. First DAX company to do so in the entire history of the index. The system on June 25, 2020, Markus Braun was arrested. The COO, Jan Marsalek, had vanished the day before. Marsalek didn't just flee. The COO of a DAX company turned out to have connections to Russian intelligence services. It is believed he was exfiltrated to Russia. As of today, he remains a fugitive. But the investigations revealed something that went beyond accounting fraud. Wirecard had operated with a level of impunity that required complicity at multiple levels. BaFin had temporarily banned short selling of Wirecard in 2019, protecting the fraud rather than exposing it. Auditing since 2009, never directly verified the Philippine accounts until it was too late. And the German government, including Angela Merkel's chancellery, had lobbied other governments on Wirecard's behalf while the fraud continued. The Wirecard scandal was not just corporate fraud. It was the exposure of a supervisory system that failed at every level simultaneously. The Financial Times journalists did their job. The regulators didn't. The auditors didn't. The institutional investors didn't. Because Wirecard was German. And Germany had a national interest in its story being true. That also has a name. Not incompetence. It's what happens when national identity gets confused with financial diligence. €2 billion. 20 years of construction. And the money. Was never there.